There are places not marked on any map. Places where those who enter never truly return. And if they do, the thing that comes back is no longer human. You're about to hear a story the authorities won't acknowledge. A secret buried beneath silence and blood. Before we open the gate, make sure to subscribe to Bloodthirsty Forest, where nightmares are not told. They're remembered, 'cause only those who leave their name have a chance to make it out. Are you ready? The music swells and cut to title screen, The Autonomous Zone of Tamtai 2. They told me my brother vanished without a trace. They said it happened near a place that doesn't exist on any map. A zone governed by no laws, no police, no God. They call it the Autonomous Zone of Tamtai 2. But the locals, they just whisper one word, Jianguk. Hell. Uesho. Scene 1, The Missing. It began with a letter. A torn envelope, no return address. Inside was a blood-stained piece of paper with 3 words, scribbled in barely legible ink. Don't come looking. It was my brother's handwriting, but I hadn't heard from him in 6 months. He was supposed to be backpacking through Southeast Asia. Last known location, a remote village in northern Vietnam, somewhere deep in the jungle. He was always chasing spiritual retreats, off-grid monasteries, strange temples. But this time, something went wrong. He was officially listed as missing. But I knew better. Something had taken him. Uesho. Scene 2. The last photo. In a grainy photo pulled from his cloud account, taken days before he disappeared, I spotted something disturbing. Behind him, in the shadows of an old archway, stood a figure in ceremonial robes staring directly into the camera. The man's face was hidden by a wooden mask carved with a sick smile, but his hand was raised in blessing. 3 fingers, 3 lines carved into the wrist, 3 red symbols painted on the arch behind them. San Taizi, Tam Tai Tu. I took the photo to a Vietnamese friend of mine. She paled when she saw it. Then she said, almost whispering, "That's not a place you go looking for. That's a place you get offered to." Uesho. Scene 3, Into the Unknown. I tracked his GPS trail to a forgotten path, one that wasn't on Google Maps. Locals refused to talk. Every time I mentioned Tam Tai 2, they turned away, muttering prayers under their breath. A shopkeeper finally gave in. He pulled me aside and whispered, "It's not a place, it's a zone. You go past the river, you leave this world. Police can't go there, phones don't work. Even time moves differently." "Why?" I asked. "What's there?" "Things pretending to be gods." Uesho. Scene 4, The Gate. It was dusk when I reached it. The ancient stone gate, cracked, overgrown, forgotten. Above the archway were those same symbols carved into stone. San Taizi. A gust of hot wind blew from beyond the gate. I swear I heard whispering, not from around me, from inside my head. "You came for him. Now you stay for us." I stepped through. Everything changed. Scene 5, The Dead Village. The road twisted into a forgotten village shrouded in mist. No lights, no animals, no life. But houses were there, intact, wooden, traditional, like they'd been frozen in time. People stood in doorways. They didn't move. They just watched me pass. Their faces were pale. Their eyes were wrong, glossy, hollow, like they weren't looking at me but through me, or at something standing behind me. I asked an old man if he had seen my brother. He just opened his mouth. He had no tongue. Uesho. Scene 6, The House That Breathes. I was offered a place to stay. A small wooden house with red charms nailed to the doorframe. Inside was dark, cold. The air smelled like rust and wet bones. On the table was a bowl of rice. And next to it, a human tooth. At midnight, the walls creaked. At 2 a.m., something scratched under the floorboards. At 3:17 a.m., I heard breathing. Not mine. I opened my eyes and saw a silhouette crouched in the corner. A figure with no skin, just muscles twitching. It whispered. They took his lungs first, while he was still awake. Uesho. Scene 7, The Cult. I woke up in a sweat. Morning light never came. There is no morning in Tam Tai 2. Only dusk, always. I followed the path deeper into the zone. The people became stranger. They wore red robes, faces hidden by wooden masks. Their hands were stained red, but it wasn't paint. They carried offerings to a shrine in the jungle, a twisted temple built around a tree that bled sap the color of blood. At its roots were jars. Inside them, organs, still pulsing. One of the cultists dropped to her knees and screamed into the dirt. "Tamthai 2, consume me, hollow me out." She laughed as two masked men dragged her inside the tree's hollow trunk. I heard her scream for 7 minutes. Then silence. Uasho. Scene 8, the man who escaped. I found a man hiding beneath a ruined house. He was missing both eyes and one leg, but still alive. He whispered in broken English. "They keep us alive, to harvest slow. Pain feeds him, pain is the offering." "Who?" I asked. "Tamthai 2, not a god. A wound that eats." He told me that the bodies weren't buried, just dumped into the mud. But the souls are trapped in jars, hung in the air. They can't scream, so they rattle. "Why my brother?" I asked. He laughed. "Because he had a strong heart." Uasho. Scene 9, the decision. I reached a crossroads. One path led to what they called the Chamber of Unveiling, where the organs are removed. The other? Deeper into the forest, toward the Well of Echoes, where the souls are stored. I didn't know where he was. But I knew I didn't have much time, because I was starting to feel different. My skin was pale, my heartbeat slower. And in the mirror, my eyes were no longer mine. They were his. I entered the gate of Tamthai 2 looking for my brother. I thought I could save him, but this place doesn't let go. It doesn't kill you, it keeps you and hollows you out. Uasho. Scene 1, the prisoner in the jar. The further I walked, the heavier the air became. I found a shrine in the forest, hidden behind overgrown vines. It was built with bones, human femurs, ribs, even skulls, all bound together by black string. Inside, dozens of glass jars hung from the ceiling. Each one contained something alive, a tongue still twitching, an eye blinking, a heart slowly beating, even without blood, and worse. Inside one jar I saw a face, half of one pressed against the glass. It whispered, "Help, he's still breathing, don't let them take his soul." It was my brother. Uasho. Scene 2, the slaughter hall. Following the red trail from the shrine, I reached what they call the Hall of Silent Screams. A temple, half underground, built into the base of a mountain. The walls were lined with soundproofing made of skin. Inside, metal slabs, rusty tools, restraints still soaked in blood. The air buzzed with flies. The floor was wet, but there was no sound. Even when they cut, there was no screaming. Not because they were unconscious, because they had already taken their voices. Uasho. Scene 3, a harvest in progress. I watched unhiding as a man was brought in. His eyes wide open, mouth gagged. He was still awake. 4 cultists held him down. One chanted in a forgotten language. Another held a blade curved like a serpent. They didn't rush. They worshipped the pain. Every incision was a prayer. The man shook violently, veins bulging until they removed his liver, still warm. They raised it to a statue of Tamthai 2, a deity with 3 faces, child, man, and decayed corpse. The moment the offering was made, the statue bled. Uasho. Scene 4, the Room of Names. I fled through a side corridor and stumbled into a quiet room. The walls were lined with scrolls, hundreds of names written in red ink. At the center was a mirror, not just a reflection, but a memory. As I stared into it, I saw my brother, months ago, tied to a slab, sobbing, still untouched. A masked priest leaned close to him and whispered, "You will die many times, but you will not die completely, not until your soul is worthy." Then the priest looked up through the mirror and stared straight at me. Scene 5, the fleshless children. I followed the scent of burning incense and reached a nursery. But the cribs were wrong. Inside each crib lay something that used to be a child, or tried to be. Small, pulsing creatures with no faces, no skin, just raw muscle and bone twitching under red cloth. One looked at me, or sensed me, and its mouth opened. No teeth, just a hole. It whispered in my brother's voice, "They're trying to make us holy, piece by piece." Then it begged me, "End me." Uasho. Scene 6, the false god. In the temple's central chamber, I finally saw it. Not a statue, not a priest, Tamthai 2 itself. An ancient mass of flesh, eyes, and limbs, shifting constantly. Half human, half something else. It sat on a throne of bones surrounded by the cultists. Every few minutes, a new organ was placed at its feet. Each time, it pulsed brighter, stronger, and whispered something I could almost understand. Shed the flesh. Leave the soul. Stay in the suffering. They didn't worship a god. They fed it. Uasho. Scene 7, a traitor's warning. A woman in blood-soaked robes pulled me aside. She whispered urgently. I was like them, until I saw my son on that table. She revealed a secret path, deeper underground, where they stored what they couldn't destroy. They can take your heart, your lungs, your skin, but not your guilt. That's what truly feeds him. She handed me a dagger carved from bone. You'll find him there. What's left of him. But be warned. He remembers you, and he blames you. Uasho. Scene 8, the Chamber of Remnants. Beneath the temple was a vault. Chains lined the walls, hooks dangled from the ceiling. And in the center, a pile of people. No, not people. Parts. An arm still twitching. A head, eyes open, mouthing silent words. Each piece was alive but incomplete. Souls still inside, unable to move, unable to die. My brother was there. His body was gone, just his face resting atop the pile. Eyes blinking, lips moving. You let them take me. I came for you, I whispered. Too late, he hissed. They didn't just take my body. They're taking you. Then I felt it. Something inside me. Moving. Uasho. Scene 9, the mark of offering. I ran to a broken mirror. On my chest, a red mark. 3 vertical lines. I had been marked. Not as a visitor, but as an offering, I screamed. And from the darkness, I heard dozens of voices, all at once, some crying, some laughing, some begging. Welcome, brother. I thought I was saving him, but I was just feeding it. Tam Tai too didn't want his body. It wanted mine. Or maybe it never cared who. As long as something came back. Uasho. Scene 1, the ascent of flesh. The mark on my chest burned. I stumbled out of the chamber of remnants, blood pooling in my ears. My body pulsed with something that didn't feel like mine. Behind me, the pile of half-souls moaned in unison. Some called my name, others just wept. I could still hear my brother's voice echoing from the walls. Don't come looking. I begged you. As I tried to climb out of the underground temple, I passed murals painted in blood, showing hundreds of travelers before me. All came searching, none left whole. Some became part of the god, others became the road. Uasho. Scene 2, the carnival of emptiness. Outside, the zone had changed. No longer a village. It was a maze of moving shrines, collapsing temples, and ritual fires that hovered in midair. People danced, but their faces had melted. Children laughed, but they had no mouths. And in the center of it all stood the high priest, the one with the wooden mask. He raised his arms and bellowed, "The offering walks. Flesh becomes vessel. Soul becomes echo." And they bowed to me. Because I was no longer a stranger, I was the ritual. Uasho. Scene 3, the jar of myself. They dragged me to a black altar made of human bones. My arms were numb, my legs barely moved. A priestess placed a mirror before me. I saw nothing. No reflection. Just a glass jar sitting alone, and inside it my own face, screaming silently. They had already taken my soul. The body left behind was just a shell meant to carry Tam Tai 2 beyond the zone. Into the world. Uasho. Scene 4, the tunnel back. I don't know how I made it out. A crack opened in the air, like the zone was spitting me out. I fell onto a roadside covered in blood and ash. My phone was shattered. My clothes were torn, I had aged or decayed. A passing truck driver saw me and screamed, "Your eyes, what the hell is wrong with your eyes?" I looked in his mirror. They weren't mine, they were my brother's. Scene 5, the world doesn't see. I was taken to a hospital, then a psychiatric ward. I told them everything. They said it was trauma hallucinations. I tried to find the location on a map. Gone. No coordinates, no photos, no GPS record. Even the envelope with my brother's message? Vanished. I thought maybe I had dreamed it all. Until one night, I heard something tapping at my window. Jar, floating in the air. Inside it, my face again. But this time it wasn't screaming. It was laughing. Uasho. Scene 6, the beginning of spread. Over the following weeks, strange news appeared in remote places. A monk found flayed alive, still meditating. A hospital in Laos reports an invisible disease, where patients cough up red markings. An entire village in Myanmar vanishes. All that's left are empty robes and pulsing jars hanging from trees. I watched the reports and realized, Tam Tai 2 is no longer trapped because I brought it out. Every time I sleep, I dream of the shrine. Every time I wake, I find new scars. Uasho. Scene 7, the final letter. I tried to end it. I set my house on fire, burned everything, photos, notes, mirrors, but the next morning everything was back, neatly arranged. Only one difference. A letter on my bed, written in red. You are the new gate. Every person who hears your story opens it. Uasho. Scene 8, dear viewer. Narrator speaks directly to camera, final monologue. So here we are. You listened. You stayed. You wanted to know the truth. And now you do. That sound behind you, that whisper you think is just in your head, that chill running down your back, it's already begun. Uasho. Because Tam Tai 2 only needed one of us to escape, and now it needs more. Uasho. Fade to black. A faint sound of hundreds of glass jars clinking together. Then silence, then one last whisper. Thank you for opening the door.